What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian alone from House of Wrestling, and this is my review for the November 18th episode of AEW Rampage. You can somewhat say this is the go home show for AEW heading into tomorrow night's AEW Full Gear pay per view. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Instagram, and for now, whatever happens with Twitter, on Twitter. So yeah, you can follow me there. Also, give this video a like on YouTube. But man, this AEW Rampage, this was a very energetic, enthusiastic Rampage. There's a few things I wish they would have switched around, but for the most part, this was a fun episode. Man, the crowd was really into it, but man, this is things are going to be interesting tomorrow, man. Things are going to be really interesting. Before I started recording, I was catching a little bit of the countdown to Full Gear. Of course, there's a lot of anticipation, especially with MJF, and I would say 99% of the predictions for Full Gear are MJF is going to walk out with the AEW World title. The thing is, how is he going to wind up getting that title? The big question is the firm going to help him? Is William Regal going to turn on Moxley and help MJF win the title? So there's a lot of curiosity and intrigue with this main event that everyone's just like, man, this is going to be... It's going to be interesting how this plays out. But man, before I get into this tonight's episode of AEW Rampage, like always, I'm going to give you guys a result. So, in the opening match, you had Ricky Starks defeat Lance Archer. You had Hook defeat Lee Moriarty. You had Athena defeat Madison Rayne. And in the main event, you had Konosuke Takeshita and Jun Akiyama defeat Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. So that is the results for tonight's AEW Rampage. Man, the way the show started, man, this was pretty interesting. First off, JR, man, his I don't want to say blunders, but just like his bloopers, like I've grown accustomed to them. I know some people are like, oh my god, this is just bad. Like, why is he there? Like, oh my god. Like, it happens. Look, he's on Rampage. Just let the man be, man. Just let him be. It's not happening all the time, but look, man, just let the man be. And, look, like I said, just let him be. But as he was introducing him, Excalibur, I believe Tony Schiavone and Taz, they were on commentary, and as their intro was like, whoa, 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 they're like, I like how they emphasize, like, hey, something's happening, like, we need to cut from what we normally do, like, we need to go to this. And backstage, you have Archer having Ricky Starks, and he has him up against the garage, the steel doors that they have for the garage. He has them against there, and he's pressing them, and they're just fighting. So you got Lance Archer and Starks. They're fighting backstage. I thought that was really cool because it brought a different element to Rampage. And I know not only myself, but I know many people have said, like, man, when Rampage is live, man, there's such a enthusiastic energy to that show where it's just like, man, all right, let's see this, man. This is going to be really cool. Like, this is, all right, man, this is going to be fun. And, man, this show was, man, this match, man, they wound up fighting through the crowd. They wound up fighting through the stairs. This is the match. This is where, and I've noticed this about AEW, that it's happening a lot more frequent in the last month, that certain matches have been, like, should have switched places. For instance, it would have made more sense to have Ortiz, Kingston, Takeshita, and Jun Akiyama open the show because, one, there's no stakes, and two, Ricky Starks and Archer, if that match would have happened like that towards the end. Well, now looking back on it, I mean, you got Eddie, Mark Henry. It's time for the main event, which is usual. But that would have been really interesting because most people would have been anticipating it. Mark Henry's there, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on here? They're not here. Um, where are they at?" And then they cut to the back, and then you have Lance Archer and Ricky Starks fighting and everything. That would have been really cool to do as well. But of course, also with Ricky Starks and Archer in the World Title Eliminator Tournament, it would have made sense to add that, considering, or have that in the show, considering Ricky Starks has to wrestle Brian Cage tomorrow in the 0 hour, which after this match, Brian Cage did come out and they had the face-off. So it would have made sense. It would have added more build to the pay-per-view. Like, oh man, what's going to happen? Man, I got to tune in tomorrow. Like, is Ricky Starks going to win and advance in the tournament or what have you? Yeah, I would have done that. I would have, that would have been a little bit, me personally, I would have liked that to happen. But man, this match, again, they were fighting through the crowd up the stairs. Then once they got in the ring, they ring the bell. Man, Ricky Starks, at a certain point in the match, he started doing he started hitting some forearms on Lance Archer that it's like, whoa. Like, he had a fire that, the way he was wrestling, it's like, no, he's not wrestling like Ricky Starks, FGW champion. Like, no, he's wrestling Ricky Starks. I'm about to face MJF or Moxley, at next month's Winter is Coming. Like, that's how he was wrestling. It's like, all right, we getting another guy, boop, 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 moving up. It's like, this gonna be fun. All right, here we go. So you had that part. Then you had Lance Archer execute a freaking lariat. Then attempted to pin, kicked out by Ricky Starks. Then Ricky Starks executed a beautiful tornado DDT on Lance Archer. Like, he really stuck that on him. Then there's a point where they were going back and forth, and Ricky Starks countered a clothesline and executed a spear. Got the pin. 1, 2, 3. Ricky Starks won. This crowd was so into Ricky Starks. Like, that man, you got MJF that's already up there. You've had Darby up there for a while. You've had Jungle Boy up there. He's going to get up there, especially depending on how his match goes with Luchasaurus in the cage match tomorrow. So you got that. Sammy, you're kind of, especially with stuff that's happened in the last month, so he's kind of like taking steps. He's regressed a little bit, but like his character is like starting to, especially what happened tonight is like, okay, they're starting to get here. It's like, but he's still got that, like, Sammy's a different case. It's just like, man, you got to wait and see on that. Like, he was there and just a lot of stuff happened that stalled his momentum that he had. So you got that, but man, this Ricky Starks, man, is going to be fun. I honestly think we're going to get Ricky Starks and Ethan Page next week on Dynamite. It was announced, this past Wednesday, that because they couldn't have the match last week because Ricky Starks wasn't cleared, next week they're going to have the World Eliminator final on Dynamite. So I honestly think we're going to get Ethan Page and Ricky Starks. I don't think we're going to get Ethan Page and Brian Cage. I do think we're going to get Ethan Page and Ricky Starks, which, man, if they let those guys go, man, that is going to be a fun match between Ethan Page and Ricky Starks, which is fitting because if you do get Ricky Starks and Ethan Page, those are two guys that a lot of people have been saying, like, man, we need to see more of them. Ethan Page, like, man, we don't want to see him with America's Top Team. Like, he needs to be on his own. Starting to get that now. So there's a lot of things that are adding to this, which is really interesting how this plays out. Then we had, after the match, you had Archer, he attacks Starks, then he chokeslammed him on the stairs, and you see Brian Cage and, man, I forgot the guy's manager. The manager of the embassy. I'm just going to leave it at that. They're looking on, and they cut the commercial. Then we go to a video package of Moxley and MJF. Then we get a video package of, or earlier in the day of Chris Jericho, Sammy, and Tony Schiavone. And this is something, man, I wish they would do more of this, man. So Tony Schiavone is, during the opening match, he's telling Chris Jericho, like, hey, did you, I have some later on for you that you need to check out. He's like, what do you mean? I interviewed you and Sammy earlier today, and you need to check out how Sami Zayn reacted to what you said in the interview. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, he's with us. He's with us. So they show this footage, and Jericho's like, I'm here. I'm going to win the Ring of Honor title, and the title is staying with the Jericho Appreciation Society. It's staying with me. Sammy, I agreed, and it's gonna stay with me. And Sammy, once he says that, Sami Zayn or Sammy Guevara just looks, and he looks at Tony Schiavone. He's like, yeah, oh, we'll see. It's like, ooh, so are we getting a potential breakup of the Jericho Appreciation Society? Which, fingers crossed, I hope it happens, because they've been feuding with the Blackpool Combat Club for since June. Yes, since June. Since Blood and Guts. Like, please, we need to move on from that. And I do think next, or tomorrow at Full Gear, I do believe it's the beginning of that new era in AEW. It just feels like this whole year has just been a baptism by fire for AEW, and just all points, the booking, the women's division, the backstage stuff, the news reports, Cody leaving, just a lot of like stuff that just like, man, it almost, thankfully it hasn't gone to that point where it's just like, oh my God, people want to leave, but it's just more like, man, can they just get a break to like just go forward? Same thing with WWE, like just get a break to go forward, because when both of these companies are putting on hot products, man, it's so fun. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, man. It's so fun. After that, we get Lee Moriarty and Hook. It's another solid match. This was the one match where Hook, you could say, was really tested. Lee Moriarty, man, I knew going into this match that he was going to apply some really intriguing submission holds, and he did not disappoint in this match. So, I mean, you had Hook with, was it the knee strikes? Like, it was a lot, man. I would say it was a combination early on in the match. In this match, it was a combination of like mat wrestling, submission, and counters. Just in like that sequence, like they were trying to get the upper hand of each other in submission holds, and I didn't mind that. That was like pretty cool, and it's like that's Hook's. That's how Hook wrestles. And Lee Moriarty, if you watch his matches and everything, whether it's AEW or in Independence, like that's how he wrestles. So it's just like, ooh, okay, this is really interesting. This match for me, it did kind of feel a little bit short. Of course, Hook, right now he hasn't wrestled that much, so I can understand why the matches weren't that much. But man, I am really looking forward to Hook wrestling more longer matches, because man, like his submission holds and stuff, like, man, that's gonna be fun when he wrestles for like the TNT title. Like just the submission, the storytelling to his submission. And honestly, one match I want to see in 2023, I want to see Bryan Danielson versus Hook, because that is going to be a very big test for that guy Hook, man. Put him and Bryan Danielson in the ring, one match. Like, that is something that needs to happen in AEW. So yeah, you had that. You had the Fisherman's Throw. You had the double knee. You had Lee execute a Kimura lock on Hook, which was pretty. It's like, like, I don't like. Of course, it's like, okay, Hook is probably going to win, but it's like it's to the point where it's like maybe he's not going to win. But no, in the end, you had Lee Moriarty. He was executing a border stretch on Hook, and I recommend you guys watch this match because the counter that Hook executed. Let me phrase that. The counter that Hook did and the maneuvers he did to counter that Border City stretch into the Red Rum was freaking amazing. Like, watch that match. That was pretty cool. And man, like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing Hook wrestle more matches. Whether it's Bryan Danielson. Hell, I want to see Hook wrestle Claudio. Like, that would be pretty cool. But man, he got the win and the submission, and there you go. Then we get a backstage segment with Roosh, Jose the assistant, John Silver, and 10. You have Jose telling John Silver, dude, you're a clown. We beat your guy, and you're just joking around. You're the clown of the Dark Order. You don't take anything serious. And John Silver's like, well, what do you mean? Why don't you two take on? Or actually, Jose's like, well, you know what? Why don't you two take on me and Roosh? And John Silver's like, oh, Roosh bag, and he's like, you know what? And that's what he's joking around. And Jose's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, you're still a joke. Then you had 10. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what's going on here? So it's adding to the whole, like, okay, 10's with them, but like, is he getting frustrated because John Silver's taking a joke and he wanted to take things more seriously? Ooh. Okay, are we getting a breakup in the Dark Order? Like, this is interesting. Then we get to the next match, which is Athena versus Madison Rayne. Man, Athena, if most of you don't know, it's been trending on, for now, Twitter, but also on various social platforms, especially on TikTok. She's been wrestling mostly matches on Dark Elevation, and she's been very heelish. And they mention this on commentary, and man, thank you God they're listening to people who offer this advice on social media. They showed highlights from Dark Elevation. Yay! Man, this match, whoo, man. I don't recall Athena being a heel in WWE, but man, whoever decided that, if that was Athena, that is a great job because AEW has just stumbled upon someone that is going to have such a dynamic to the women's division as a heel. Of course, Jade Cargill, you can tell that she's shifting more towards a babyface tweener type thing. But man, this match with Madison Rayne and Athena, Madison Rayne is the second she came out second. So she's in the ring, and they're showing a vignette or a promo that Madison Rayne was giving. He's like, I don't respect you and how you treat your opponent. And it's while she's saying that, you hear the comments like, oh, wait, we need to get back to the ad. Like, whoa. And they show the replay, and Athena drop kicked Madison Rayne while she had her back turned. It's like, ooh, okay, this is going to be interesting. So that happens. They cut right back to the action. They replay that. Like I said, Athena rams Madison into the barricade. She has her in like the pop-up position, and she just rams her. She picks her up and just rams her into the barricade like really hard. Then after that, you just have this Athena chant. It's like, so this is what these people wanted Athena to do all along. They're cheering for her, doing all this heelish stuff. And I have no problems with it because, man, Athena's a very physical wrestler, and it's very convincing and believable. So her doing this is just like, man, and her facial expressions and just like, we getting something good here. Then there was a point where there was a delayed suplex by Madison Rayne where she countered it. After that words, Athena just got even more aggressive, and then she executed a you could say a variation of a double of the double knee backbreaker. Got the pin, Then afterwards, she starts attacking Madison Rain. She starts beating her up. And while she's doing that, this is where the crowd just like got up like, whoa, she just decks Aubrey Edwards. And the crowd was like, whoa. Mind you, in the 3 years of AEW, I don't think it's ever happened that Aubrey Edwards got decked, where she just, bam, like she just got knocked in the women's division. It's like, ooh, that's something that's a different wrinkle to the AEW's women's division. Like, oh, so they're touching the officials now. Specifically, Aubrey Edwards is like, ooh, okay. So yeah, she does that, and then music hits. Mercedes Martinez returns. So yes, Mercedes Martinez, the reigning Ring of Honor World Champion, comes and she confronts Athena. Athena gets out the ring, walks back. So you have Mercedes Martinez checking on Madison Rain. So yes, we're probably going to get Mercedes and Athena possibly next week or something like that. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But man, I enjoy watching Athena be a heel. I'm interested to see where this goes. Her being aggressive and physical. Man, this was a 180. And whenever Ruby Soho returns, I wouldn't mind Ruby Soho being a heel either. Just saying. It could be, man, that could be a nice duo and tag team. We'll see how this plays out, specifically once we get to 2023 and just, the new year rolls out. But man, I'm digging it. We get a backstage segment with the Best Friends and the Factory, and Orange Cassidy. He's like, I know you guys want to fight us. And they say tomorrow at 0 hours. It's like, oh, really? Reason why I say that's like, I don't know, man. I think it's the Best Friends need new opponents. Like, it feels like they've been wrestling the Factory for like 2 months already, somewhat longer. So it's just like, all right, can you give them someone else, another trio or what have you? And then he gives them a VHS and he's like, oh, well, look at this spooky video. And of course you see it's Danhausen and everything. And QT Marsh's like, oh, he laughs. I was like, it's Danhausen. And he walks away and everything. So, I mean, it was just pretty much an advertisement for their match next week or tomorrow. Then we get, for me, is the highlight of this whole show, a video package of the House of Black. So it's typical House of Black theme where they're walking from the shadows into the light. And there's these opponents, and they're just beating up. Julia Hart's beating up everybody. Like, man, shout out to Julia Hart. What a 180 she's done since joining the House of Black. Like, man, she's added so much of an element to the House of Black that's just like, ooh, man, this is so good. And, of course, a lot of us are thinking and anticipating that once we get the Elite and Death Triangle match, after that match, we might get a face-off between the House of Black and the Elite, which I'm all for that because finally we get a match between Kenny Omega and Buddy Matthews. We finally get a match between Malachi Black and Kenny Omega. Whew, man. 2023 is going to be really good, man. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that happens. But, man, this promo or this vignette, the voice, man, shout out to whoever was the voiceover for this, for these promos or these vignettes from the House of Black. Cause like, man, whoever that guy was, like, he added so much to these vignettes that it was so, man, these vignettes are so good. He mentions, stop all the idle and vanity, complacency is now the standard and it's rewarded. Beat up all challengers, and you just see them come out of the shadow all together, and it's like, ooh, we're getting the House of Black returning. Like, man, like the only, like, watching this is just like, man, where's Miro? Like, we need Miro. Like, where is Miro? Like, we need Miro. And honestly, it would be dope if he had a tag team with him to fight in the 6-man title. But of course, Miro, the way he's been booked, he's been the former TNT champ. Like he needs some heavyweight gold. Don't necessarily think it will be the AEW gold, but I do think you might see him in Ring of Honor. That's something there. Then we get to the main event. Ortiz, Eddie Kingston versus Takeshita, Konosuke Takeshita, and Jun Akiyama. I enjoyed this match, but again, like I said at the beginning of this review, I wish this match, they would have swapped this match with the Ricky Starks Lance Archer match. Of course, the way the Lance Archer Ricky Starks match happened, that was just so spontaneous. Like, oh wow, this is interesting. But now, after reflecting and looking at the match, like it would have been better to switch it, because then the crowd would have had something to look, that like that cliffhanger. Like, man, is Ricky Starks gonna be there tomorrow or is he not? Just that little thing. And with this, like, I don't think Eddie Kingston's and Ortiz are on the main card. Correct me if I'm wrong, comment below. But man, this was a solid match for Rampage. Like this was some heavy hitting here, man. So Kingston, he right off the bat, he's calling out Akima. There's Eddie chants. Then there was, at different times, there was a double team on Eddie or from Takeshita and Jun Akiyama. Then there was, at another point in the match, there was a double team by Ortiz and Eddie Kingston on Takeshita and Jun Akiyama. There was a bunch of, actually from both Akiyama and Takeshita, just like elbow strikes and chops exchange between them and Eddie Kingston. Then you had Akiyama and Ortiz go back and forth. There was a nice power slam by Ortiz. Then there was a Blue Thunder Bomb by Takeshita, which somehow Ortiz kicked out. Then there was the Exploder Bomb from Akiyama, which Ortiz kicked out. Then there was back and forth between him and Ortiz, and then he executed another Exploder Bomb, got the pin, 1, 2, 3. They win. Again, I do think this match should have, looking back on it, if this match, if it wasn't going to be switched with Ricky Starks and Archer, I would have liked Athena and Madison Rayne to main event the Rampage. That way you have Mercedes Martinez in the show, or you could have had Hook and Lee Moriarty in the show and have, actually that would have been better, have Lee Moriarty and Hook finish the show and have Ortiz and Kingston and Takeshita and Jun Akiyama be like the second match. Because I mean, this was a good match, but the way it didn't, like the way it ended, it was just like, yeah, it was a good match, but it's like, it didn't feel like, hey, this is a part 2 conclusion or go home to Full Gear. Like it really didn't connect and correlate to what we experienced on Wednesday with MJF and Moxley and everything. So it was just really weird how this show ended. But overall, I like the Hook Lee Moriarty match. I like the Ricky Starks Archer match. I like Athena being as a heel. Man, I think the takeaway from this show is you got Ricky Starks, who, man, he's got some momentum that people are just like, let that man win this whole tournament. You got Hook. It's like, all right, we need to see more of Hook because, man, he still has that it factor, and man, the guy he's got some great submission counters and reversals and everything. It's just like, man, like really reminiscent of his dad. And then of course Athena and what she's doing with her heelish work. It's like, ooh, this is all right. So we got some players that you can fit into some stories that going forward. It's like, ooh, we can tell some really cool stuff. And of course, getting back to Ricky Starks, man, after Full Gear tomorrow and then next week's Dynamite, when the winner of the Brian Cage Ricky Stark faces Ethan Page, we could be looking at MJF and Ricky Starks, which, man, if that's the match for Winter is Coming, Ricky Starks versus MJF, the promos between those guys, man, I'm telling you right now in this review, the promos between MJF and Ricky Starks, man, we are in for a treat. If we get those guys promo work leading for, mind you, that's a few weeks or so, but man, that is some promo work that is going to be fun. And whatever happens with that match, if it does happen and transpire and everything, you possibly got an MJF Ricky Starks feud going into 2023. So that is some interesting stuff that we could literally have MJF and Ricky Starks be the top feud for the AEW World title going into 2023. Wild to think about, but at the same time, it's cool to have that anticipation and expectation. Like, man, this is a real possibility that this is going to happen. And, people enjoy MJF's mic work. People enjoy Ricky Stark's mic work. So you have two of the most charismatic wrestlers in AEW with great mic work that are going to be feuding for the world title, which they're fresh faces. Kenny's not there in the world title picture. Moxley more than likely is going to go on vacation that he was supposed to. You don't have Jericho around the title. Of course, Cody's not there. He's in WWE. So it's like, man, this is actually a fresh main event scene. Like, yo, this is different. Like, all right, let's see this. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's night's Full Gear and how everything transpires and stuff like that. Will we get a surprise? Will we get a return? With AEW, nothing's for sure. Like, good and bad, nothing's for sure. So, we just got to watch the pay-per-view and see what unfolds in New Jersey and see what transpires. And, again, 99% of the people, including myself, think MJF is walking out that title. And I think more people want to watch to see how he gets the title, which is what everybody, like, how is MJF going to get this title? That's the major thing with this pay-per-view. So I'm excited for that pay-per-view and see how it unfolds. But that is my review for the November 18th episode of AEW Rampage, the go-home Rampage for tomorrow night's Full Gear. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notifications, like this video on YouTube. Follow me, Dedrian180 on TikTok, Instagram, and for now, depending on what happens with Twitter, on Twitter. So, man, there's a lot of wrestling in the next couple of weeks, and even the night before Thanksgiving, we're gonna get Rampage. So, it's so much wrestling, man. Let's just enjoy. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Those of you affected by the snowstorm in the east and just the bitter cold throughout, the states and everything, and wherever you may be experiencing some bad weather, stuff like that, man, just bunker down, stay safe, and hopefully professional wrestling provides you an alternative to pass the time until, the snow and the bad weather leaves and everything. So that is my review. With that,